Hello once again. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's nice to be here. Every night, every evening like this, I have promised that I'll be coming on to you live, 8 o'clock and for 15 minutes. So it's very short. I'll go right to it. I said, the coming revolution, God is recruiting. The coming revolution, God is recruiting. Iretidola Ojekwa is my name. I am regularly not a teacher, nor a preacher. In fact, I am what you call a politician. I call myself a political player. But for these times, God has considered it very important that even someone like me, who is a politician, a political player, should be, given the assignment to handle this just because it is very, very important to him. So I'll go right to the topic, the coming revolution. The coming revolution. God is recruiting. For the past few days, I've tried to establish the fact that God is not recruiting, it's not discriminating against the people that we usually think God would discriminate against. It's not discriminating against the people that you and I would normally consider way below God, way below the standard that God has set. No, he's recruiting, and he's recruiting those that believe that he is, and who believe he is, and is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Now, Nigeria will be my focus right now. I may not know what will happen in Ghana and other parts of Africa, but I know that in Nigeria, there is something that God wants to do. In fact, for the past few years, I have been staking my life on it. I have been doing, so much in that regard, just focusing on the fact that God wants to do something in Nigeria, and I must be part of it. Now, that will take me to a story in the Bible concerning the nation Israel. There was a time that there was, in fact, it was worse than what we have in Nigeria right now. There was a time that the country was at war. They were at war, but unfortunately for them, only the king and his son had swords. Only two had swords. The whole country had no swords, and they were at war. They were at war front, actually. And then the king was so demoralized. He didn't know what to do with such a big army, and he had so little. And then, Jonathan looked at all the army, how they were gathered, but had no confidence to go into battle. And he went aside, and he and his armor bearer went aside, just like his ADC. And then he talked to God. He said, now, if you will show me a sign that I should go, then I'll go. If they tell me to come, I will go. That means you are telling me, go and fight. If I look at those soldiers, they see me and they say, don't come here or something like that, then I will know you are not sending me. And truly speaking, those ones gave the signs and said he should come over, and they were going to kill him. And so he had the confidence. All that we need is that confidence that God is saying we should go into battle. All that we need at any time is that confidence that God is saying, go ahead and do it. And so he had that confidence that God was calling him. And there were thousands and hundreds of thousands of soldiers that were going to fight him. But he and his armor bearer, they went into battle to go and fight. He was just sure that once God was with you, one is a majority. And as he got there, he started fighting. Now, that's not the point. He was only able to kill 20 before the intervention of God. And how did God intervention come? First, there was noise. Now, just be relating. I'm not just telling you the story of Israel for nothing. In telling you the story of Israel, I'm telling you what is going to happen in Nigeria. The same style that he used with Jonathan and his armor bearer is what he's going to use with anyone who is willing to come along with him to do this godly revolution the way he wants to do it. He is recruiting. And so at that point, after Jonathan had done all to kill 20 is not easy, except you are watching film. And then after killing about 20, then there was an earthquake. The place trembled. And, the enemy, some of them, they shook. They did not understand. Then the factions, opposition, the same country that was fighting them, they faced each other and started fighting each other. That's another trick that happened. Then, Now listen very carefully. This is where I am going, and this is why I tell you and I keep telling you that God is not going to discriminate when it comes to recruiting those who are going to do this revolution. And at that point, you know, as the fight started going on, even between them, because of the confusion, because of the earthquake, Philistines began to fight each other. And then, in the midst of that, the Israelites that had moved over to the side of Philistines, I hope I'm correct now, I think it was the Philistines, the Israelites that had moved to opposition side, that had become the enemy of Israel, because Israel was on the losing side, because they did not see that Israel was going to win. They were in the midst, they had become part of the army of opposition. They turned, their hearts turned, and they turned at that point. Their hopes, you know, rose up again, and they took up their sword and they started fighting the enemy. You know, they themselves had become enemy of Israel by that time. They had become enemies of their nation. They turned and began to fight. Those were part of the soldier, the army that they had. Then there were those who had gone to hide. Maybe those that Japa had carried away. They had gone to hide in mountains and all that because of the problem was too huge for them and they did not know how to handle it. They had gone to hide in caves and all that. When they saw what was happening on the field, they came out and they also came to come and fight on the side of Israelites. What God is about to do in Nigeria. You see, the people that had become the enemies of Nigeria, great enemy in the sense that when you're talking of corruption, they are the ones behind it. When you are talking of embezzlement, they are the ones behind it. When you are talking of killing people for money, they are the ones behind it. If you are talking about prostitution and all the other vices that people can involve in when they have no hope in God, they are the ones behind it. Those ones, as soon as they see that flicker of hope, as soon as they see that first action of those ones who are bold enough and confident enough to stand up for God, they are going to join in this battle. And the battle is going to be easier than you think. The battle to save Nigeria, to make Nigeria the giant of Africa. Not only the giant of Africa, to make Nigeria a giant to behold in the world. That is about to happen. And God is recruiting. So if Jonathan, as just one man who had one sword, had the confidence to face a whole nation with hundreds of thousands of soldiers, I believe I am bold enough. I am enough to stand, and you also are enough to do this. So that's one good example of one person that stood and made, because he stood, hope arose. Because he stood, hope came alive in other members, in other Israelites. And those who had become enemies, they stood up. See, gone are the days when I used to be so bitter, be so angry at anything I saw, and anyone I saw who was prospering and was not doing the will of God and was prospering at it, I'll be so sad, I'll be so angry. If they showed the person on television and it was shiny, and I know that this person is a drug peddler, I will not be able to sleep. I'll be feeling like, God, when are you going to do justice to this thing? When are you going to let the evil people suffer? When are you going to show them so that the world will know that it is bad to do evil? Until I began to see that that is not always the way God wants to do it. That the greatest victory, the biggest joy, the biggest victory for God is when those that the enemy has won to his side, those that the enemy has taken for his own, when they turn around in battle, and they begin to fight, for God. When the enemy thought he had already taken them, That itself is the greatest joy in heaven. And that is where we are going to have the greatest number of soldiers coming. This is where we are going to have the greatest number of people come to join this army that the Lord is putting up. Or who do you think is going to be able to reform the police more than the police that has repented? You see the police force in Nigeria, the decay that is inside. I'm in government too. So if I'm talking, to be like I should keep my mouth. Oftentimes I keep my mouth shut because I'm inside. So I should talk from inside. I should tell the inside what I see. But on this mission, we all know that the rot that is in the police is so much that it will take an insider to do a job. Don't worry. God knows what he has been doing from the onset. All you need to do is to do your own role. And oftentimes your role is just to stand. Just as I'm standing like this. Yours may not be to come and speak. There is somewhere that he has placed you, or there's somewhere you have found yourself. There is somewhere, whether you have found yourself because you are looking for what to eat, you have found yourself because you got lost along the way, you found yourself even maybe because of compromise. There is that place that you are, that when the time is right, all you need to do is just stand up. You know, there's so many verses in the Bible, all it says is, arise. Because he knows you are somewhere. And where you are, if you agree with the Lord at any time, and your heart turns like this, he knows that you can help him to achieve all that his people who have been in church and praying every day, who have not been strategically placed, because he knows you can achieve all that in a day. Now, let me talk about being strategically placed. You know, as children of God, from when I came into the Lord, I've mentioned it in one of my videos. The first thing I noticed, the first thing that happened to me was that it was like every teaching was saying I should drop everything I was, drop what I was, drop what, even the speaking was something I was born with. I was so good at it that in my JS2, you know, I was called upon to be giving, I would be called upon to be giving speech where my seniors were sitting down. You know, but it's like, be humble, hide yourself, humble yourself until the Lord will reveal you. There's some truth in that. But to the extent that, you know, you lost it all, you don't want to speak, you don't want to do, you are just thinking, if you did, you were being forward, or you were being proud, or you were jumping gun. So you had to be humble so much that I lost the ability to talk, to speak, the ability to, you know, to speak in public. Talk less of so many other things that I threw away easily because I just felt I had to start all afresh, and all my experiences in the world were to be thrown away. And this has happened to so many children of God. I'll give an example. Like 15 years ago or thereabouts, there's this Christian brother that I knew. I just want to give this example. A little younger than I. And this guy, I know him, I can vouch for him that this guy was very straightforward, very pure in heart and motives. And he was working with the Lord. And then his uncle took him, that time Two-Face was reigning, seriously. Two-Face is like today's Ashake, or, you know, all the ones that are reigning right now. That was what Two-Face was everywhere. And his uncle was this person that was always managing artists, or he had a media outfit, and he was going. I've told these stories in many places. And this brother was working with his uncle after graduation, and his brother was, his uncle, so trusted him that he placed him over everything. But you know the way they teach us in church, you know, to be holier than thou, you know, everything is impure. Don't walk with unbelievers. Don't do this with unbelievers. So he came and told me, he said he's going to leave that his uncle. I said, why? You said, but you said he trusts you. Yes, and trusted so much in your hand. He said, yes. Yes, he's an unbeliever, and then you know, he will take, usually we have gigs, and then I will follow them because I keep account, or I can't remember the story too well, and then I will have to follow them to nightclubs to watch. Sometimes I'm just, and my spirit is just, and I told him, I said, but where you are positioned, it is key. It is so vital, so useful to God. But you have the strength, you have the spiritual stamina to stay there. And he said, but how will I be using my eye to see this? And he left. He left. Since that time, I have never forgotten. Because this same thing is what has happened to many people who God was trying at some point or the other to position for himself. So that when he wants to bring down immorality in this nation, he will have a few people he can call on right inside who never partook of it, who have never been part of it, but they are there. If God wants to do anything in the police, there are those who have been there for quite a while. Even though they could not combat it, they could not fight it, they could not bring it down. They've been there and they know how it works. You know, God has been trying to position his children. But unfortunately, the teachings coming out of the pulpit has been bringing them away from it, has been tearing them away from this position. It's such that, you know, most people, they just want to take up a place in the church. Just be an usher and be or one thing or the other, and that's all they do for God. But that was never the will of God. And so today, what God wants to do, maybe because there's not so many people of his own that are well positioned. Maybe because when he was trying to position them, religion was pulling them away from those places. Maybe what he is going to do right now, he is going to do with everyone that is willing to come in now, irrespective of how their history has been with him, irrespective of the fact that they might have been against him. I have said it over and over since I started a few days ago, and I'm saying it now. God is recruiting, and he has sent out people like me. He has sent out invites, and he has told his servants, go and call them from everywhere. Prostitutes, anything, material of what they do right now, where they are. Call them and tell them to come and sup with me. That the time we are in right now, there's something he wants to do, and you know they look face. It not be by how many years you don't spend. Not be by how many years you don't spend for church. Not be by how many years you don't spend under a imam. What God want to do right now, it's about those who will come to him at this time and who are ready and willing to do that which he wants to do. He's about to combat evil, and he will bring it to his knees, and he's going to use everyone who is willing, not necessarily those who are prepared for decades, but those who will tap into it, who will come into it, because right now is when he's doing it. I'll be back again tomorrow. Every time, every day, 8 o'clock, I'll be here. Just 15 minutes, I said, but today I have done 18 minutes. Thank you very much. And I keep telling you, and I'll keep saying it. If you have someone's ears, you can help me tell them, God is about to do something in Nigeria. It's going to be now. And it's going to use those who are available, not necessarily those who have spent decades preparing. And it's irrespective of who they are and how they are, irrespective of what they are in right now. He's calling unto you. Come. Come. Let's do this work together. The revolution, God's own revolution, will not be violent, and it will be of peace, and it will be very obvious that it has God's hand in it. Thank you very much. Good night. Bye.